Hey everybody, welcome in to Going Public. I am Harry McCullough. This week, Nick Mathern is here, the general manager of South Lafourche Levee District, is here to go over a couple of things. Thanks for being here, first of all. First time on Going Public.
Sure,
I know
thanks for having me.
We met you. April 3rd you started, so things are going good?
Sure, a few weeks in, and we're getting settled in with a couple projects that we have ongoing, a few new things that we're getting on the books and getting rolling on the levees in the near future. So. But Wendell Curall, my predecessor, is still around.
I'll have to ask you how those shoes fit. There's some pretty big ones, right?
So he's still around. He's serving as the executive secretary for our board of commissioners.
Yeah.
So he'll likely be around for a few more months.
I think so.
Which I'm not going to kick him out anytime soon. That's 42 years of history that I've got to try to soak up as quickly as I can.
I know he was real excited about you coming aboard. Almost handpicked. Hand approved anyway.
Right.
So welcome in, and we're glad to have you. We're going to talk a little bit about your levee system, right? What a surprise here. And look, we just had the biggest test it's ever had, probably, and a good thing that Wendell's been working for 45 years to get it where it was. Few areas still topped, but overall, considering what was on the outside, the debris left on the outside, the system performed pretty well.
Absolutely, and it's as much of a success story as it is a frustrating story, because, here we were. The Corps of Engineers will tell us, based on their standards, we shouldn't be able to pass a 100-year storm.
Right.
And here we are, the fifth most powerful storm on record to hit the United States, a 300-year level storm on the critical path for our system. And
you were on the bad side, right?
We did. And so we had a little bit of overtopping in a few spots, and we've done some work to raise those levels, but we had really no standing water near any homes. We had no homes flooded. We had 0 NFIP claims from storm surge. So it was as successful as we possibly could have hoped for.
Right.
And the repairs that we had done, the major repairs, were in place, ready to go for August 15th of the following year, which that critical window for the heaviest storms in history has been August 15th to October 15th. Right. So while June 1st is the official start of hurricane season, our target for when are we going to be actually ready to put something to the test is going to be August 15th. So the repairs that we needed to do were in place by then, and of the following year of 2022. So, and we've just been adding on to that since, and going back and making sure the grass is stable and armoring some of our structures, which and is real big. Continue to lift.
Specifically August 29th. So that's
absolutely
been a big
right.
So, but yeah, look, we have wind events now. We hadn't had flood events there for the most part, right?
Correct,
we hadn't had a New Orleans East, Chalmette kind of deal because we're in place, can do better. I mean, still have to keep going.
Right, and at the time we were at 16-foot elevation on our highest parts, and we have video that shows that's exactly where we got. We got to 16 feet, a little bit over in some of the lower spots, but and so we're just gonna keep raising the levee. Where our target right now is 16 to 18 feet on the southern end and 13 feet on the northern end along the intracoastal, and tapering towards between those two elevations.
Okay. Well, where we at now is December of 2020. Now is where we'll start here.
Sure. A couple photos to show the people at home just the difference that we're facing on the outside of the system and why it's so critical to keep raising our levees. December 2020 is the image that we're looking at here, which most people I think would be familiar with. You do any kind of fishing or work around the Little Lake area cutoff. You grew up around Delta Farm. This image pretty well, a good substantial bit of land. But if we move forward to post-Ida, we'll see just how much land we've lost. We have so many open water areas right up against the toe of our levee.
Not so Little Lake anymore.
Not so, it's a little bay or little gulf almost. And so that's why it's so critical that our levees themselves are as high and robust as we can get them. In the future, we'll be looking at putting more hard structure armoring, whether that be through sheet pile walls along the toe of the levee, ideally through rocks, but rocks are so much more expensive.
Sure.
Whereas sheet pile we can get away with for $50 or less per linear foot, and that'll help us to have no more erosion itself on the toe of the levee. Now, anything that you put between yourself and the Gulf is going to be a help, and so we've worked with the parish, Lafourche Parish government. We've worked with Ducks Unlimited and ConocoPhillips, a big landowner out there, that they've done a lot of earth and terracing work. So hopefully in the future we'll continue to add some more marsh where we can with our limited funds and with our partners' limited funds. Waiting for some of these larger marsh creation projects through QIPA program, through some of the Restore Act money that could be funneling down here, through what was just approved by the CPRA board, the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority of Louisiana. Their updated master plan for this year includes a lot of marsh creation on either side of Bayou Lafourche, which is going to be fantastic for us as a better line of defense in front of those levees. So that's definitely something that we'll be keeping an eye on moving forward. But we've also been doing a lot of work, as I mentioned, on our levees themselves. And so one thing that people would be aware of is the elevated highway that's heading towards Port Fouchon. The Leeville Bridge was replaced. The connection between Leeville and Fouchon is already in place. And so this is just below where Highway 3235 ends at LA1. And the elevated highway is going to be another 8.3 miles from Golden Meadow to Leeville. And then another to connect to the 11.2 miles that's already in place from Leeville to Fouchon, for a total of about 19.5 miles from Golden Meadow all the way to Fouchon, elevated. Should be complete by the end of 2029, and the cost is about $463 million. It's a state project. So that bridge is going to cross over our levee.
Over the levee,
and so we're, instead of being able to raise an earthen levee, which we don't have a lot of clearance. Our levee is 18 feet there, and the height of the bridge is just a few feet above that, and it's going to be difficult to maintain an earthen levee there. So working with DOTD, we said, well, let's build a concrete T-wall there. It's an elevation of 21 feet, so that we don't have to come back in a couple of years and try to do any work under that bridge. So that's going to be able to take us through several years into the future.
And you said they'll be doing that construction until 2029.
Right, another 6 years before that's likely going to be complete.
I'm going to miss that 90-degree turn in Leesville, though. So
it's you and everybody else who's had fun not running into that wall there, right?
That just to point out, you pointed out that's Section A west.
Correct. That is Section A west of our levee. It's on the western side of Bayou Lafourche, at the very southern tip of our La Rose to Golden Meadow system in the south of Golden Meadow. So we have done a little more work in response to Hurricane Ida, in anticipation of the storms to come. So moving northward, some work that we've been doing on Section B North. This is behind Oak Ridge Park in Golden Meadow, up to West 107th Street, where Baisson's, the boat launch is at the end of that road, and that's right next to our pump station number 2 also, and to the alligator farm that's back there that some people may be familiar with. So there we're using our equipment to work some of the material that we've excavated from that Barrow Canal into the existing berm of that levee. That was from additional right-of-way that we've required with, correct. So we're stockpiling that material for any future repairs and lifts that we'll need to do on that stretch of property. So we've done what we can in South Lafourche to make things as cheap and as efficient as possible for our contractors and our taxpayers. Because when we make things easier and less risk on the contractor, and a lot more straightforward, they're able to give us a much better price, and we can still get the best quality work.
Faster, right.
And so we've excavated the material, put it up, and then now we're able to use our own personnel and our own equipment to be able to shape that into levee. So a huge cost savings to the taxpayers, and the same strength of levee that we'll be able to get in the future. So it's just how we've kind of recreated building levees in Lafourche, where we're not bound by the Corps' standards of going however many miles off we need to go to get their quality material. Like, obviously our levees are great material and great quality, because they held on a 300-year level storm where the Corps said there's no way that should have happened. So we're obviously been doing something right, and so we're going to continue to do that right and continue to stretch the taxpayer dollar as much as we can.
Is there always a timetable because of storms? I think we talked about it. August the 15th is the time, but to make sure it is in place where you can go grass and all that kind of stuff. Right.
As long as we're targeting around the beginning of hurricane season, that'll give us enough time to get some good grass growth on the levee, because you don't want just bare dirt out if you're going to get a serious storm, because that wave action is just going to
be like putting sand around a burrito.
Exactly. So if we can get grass growth, it kind of armors it on its own. So
I'm sorry, that was a cheap shot.
yeah, it's all good.
not to you guys, but we all know what I'm talking about.
Oh, sure.
Right. So so section C, south. Then.
Sure. Going up to the next step up is our section C south. So we're continuing to stockpile dirt there that we've excavated out of our Barrow Canal. And that's drying and compacting. Again, the same thing for future lifts and repairs that we're going to need to do to this section of the levee. And that area of the levee starts from that Baisson's boat launch and pump station number 2, goes up to the Côte Blanche connection that connects LA1 to Highway 3235, the 4-lane highway and back. And just to give people a better idea of
Golden Meadow. Yeah.
Right. So it's hard for people when all you do is travel the 4-lane, all you do is travel LA1 to know where some of these reaches of the levee are. So one thing I'd like to do is try to, whenever I'm describing a project moving forward, say, look, if you're along Highway 1, along the 4-lane highway, what are we doing with your tax dollars in relation to what you know, the landmarks you know, the streets that you know? Because most people aren't going to see this work that their tax dollars are paying for. So one thing moving forward I'd really like to do is kind of improve our information to the public to know not just pictures of what's being done and you know, but people have a lot of trust in the levee district, and rightly so, because we've been put to the test and we've proven that the work that we've been doing has been not only adequate but above adequate to not only protect against that 100-year level storm but beyond. So the more, especially in our Facebook generation, the more information we get to people immediately, the better off they'll feel about the work we're doing.
Absolutely. Nick, stay with us 1 second. We'll take a break. We'll be right back with Going Public right after this.
Terrebonne General Health System is the largest healthcare resource in southeast Louisiana, offering a high-tech and high-touch style of healing. World-renowned services include cardiology, women's health, cancer care, and a healthy lifestyle center.
This is a true calling for all the physicians, nurses, and staff who make up our proud Terrebonne General family. We are here to provide healthcare for our community.
To discover more, please visit tghealthsystem.com.
Structural heart disease refers to a defect in the heart's valves, walls, or chambers that keeps the heart from pumping blood properly. Valve or structural heart problems may be present at birth or develop over time. Your risk increases if you have high blood pressure, plaque buildup, history of heart attack, take certain medications, or have certain heart infections. The Structural Heart Program at CIS and Terrebonne General provides innovative solutions and devices with the latest technology to bring the best possible outcomes for patients. Learn more at cardio.com.
Domestic violence is daunting, and the psychological effects can do enduring damage. Obviously, all abuse needs to end. But how? The Terrebonne Parish District Attorney's Office is dedicated to ending domestic violence and helping those who have already experienced it. Our office supports many programs that educate and adjudicate abuse towards women. If you are a victim of abuse, call the Terrebonne Parish District Attorney's Office at 873-6500.
Everybody, welcome back into Going Public. Harry McCullough here. Nick Mathern right here, the new general manager of South Lafourche Levee District. Been in job almost a month. So, man, we're putting you to the test here. Make sure you seem like you know all your reaches so far.
Well, it's been it's been kind of a crash course over these past few weeks with Wendell, riding the levee the first couple of weeks. But, I've got a background in government in Lafourche Parish and in Terrebonne Parish.
And the Corps.
And the Corps. I'm not an employee of the Corps. Let's make that very clear. But as an in-house contractor, for the last year. But my past experience with not only working with Wendell on the parish level, but with Reggie too, we've been able to work together really well regionally. And so where Morganza right, and with Morganza to the Gulf tying in, and we've got a couple photos of development of those projects here. So we're looking here where Reach L of Morganza to the Gulf, which is the easternmost portion before you get towards where it ties into the North Lafourche Levee District. So this is a shot of where Reach L from the Terrebonne side ties into our levee in the cutoff area, right around the Cote Blanche connection area. And this heads west towards Grand Bayou. Now, some people may be able to see right in the inside corner there, you see a little darker spot of mud. That's where we had a lot of debris piled up from Hurricane Ida, where our dozers pushed that material up. We had some lower spots. So the previous photos we saw just before the break of where we're stockpiling the dirt, that's one of the places we're going to be using that to lift that area of the berm so that we don't have that eroding away and get standing water there. But we have been working well with Terrebonne Levee Conservation District. And the next photo shows some of the work that they've been doing.
This is the same reach.
This is that same reach, correct. Moving further to the west. That project's been done in cooperation with Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority of Louisiana, and it should be complete, the levee work, sometime spring of next year in 2024. And moving just north of there is where our Section C North begins. So that Section C North is from the Cote Blanche connection and cutoff all the way up to the Burglar Rose Highway, LA 24. We're raising that section of the levee to a plus 13 elevation. These levee improvements should be complete around the start of hurricane season, actually. And we're seeing where we have some areas here that are complete, and we're starting to get grass growth like we were talking about before, where just having dirt up there is nice, but we need to be able to armor it.
You plant seeds, or is that
We
natural?
do. We do seed it. Our own guys, we have equipment that we put on our tractors. And
in particular grass or natural, something natural?
we do Bermuda grass. We'll do centipede, but we'll make sure that grass seed is cheap.
Right,
And we want to make sure that it's going to be there.
Put a bunch.
There's a technique called hydroseeding, which costs, X number of times what it costs for the seed. So we would rather just get our guys to do it. Again, ways that we're doing things cheaper for the taxpayers in-house. We'd rather go over a section of levee 2 or 3 times than spend 5 times the amount that it would be for hydroseeding. The taxpayers are still coming out cheaper, and we're still going to get grass growth before hurricane season. So we do keep an eye on that every day. Our field guys pass by and monitor that grass growth to make sure that we'll be in place by the time hurricanes.
How deep, when you start, in our next photo, we'll actually have some more improvements in borrow stuff. How deep are those borrows when you go down?
We'll get to, in some areas of the borrow pit, we'll get down to a minus 14 elevation. So, and we keep the water level around a minus 6.5 to minus 7.2 feet. And it helps not only with retention of water, but also people don't realize how much water weight affects and helps the stability of a levee. People would say, and a lot of people think, oh, well, a storm's coming. Why don't you just completely pump down the borrow pit, the borrow canal, so that we can have as much capacity for. But if we do that, we don't have that weight of the water holding up the foot of the levee. And so we lose some stability by doing that.
Yeah,
and a lot of people don't realize that.
Right, no, I've never thought about it.
Keeping water in the borrow canal is actually very important. So.
All right, so we sort of preview, but Section D North, levee improvement.
Right, so D North, now we're heading over
impressive.
to the east side of Bayou Lafourche. This will be behind South Lafourche High School to behind the airport in Galliano. So this segment here on the lower end is on the lower end of that section of levee. We saw some overtopping here during Ida. We had some debris get over the levee, but we had no standing water, and it's just a bad angle to the
Everything
Gulf.
pushes up.
It leads to, we have stacking of water, but we've raised it, and we're raising it to an elevation of 16 feet.
Well, and look, just going back to that Section D, Braithwaite, remember when, I forget what hurricane it was, but they just put in the big levee system, big wall, and it kind of funneled everything right into that area. It looks like everything kind of funnels right into
Correct. And that's the angle of the levee is so important because you're exactly right. You'll get a funneling effect.
Right.
And where all that water is going to come up, you're going to have a lot more
right.
force. Exactly. And so we've had some areas there where we have, especially, an acute angle that, less than 90 degrees, that will have some serious stacking. We've gone and elevated those corners, a foot or two higher than the rest of the levee, just because that exact effect that you're talking about to combat that.
Okay. Section D South.
D South runs to our pump station number 4, right behind East 174th Street in Golden Meadow. During Ida, the waves of the storm surge broke on the crown of the levee, and we lost the flood side corner of that crown. And we then repaired it. The repairs were complete and ready for that next hurricane season. We have great grass growth, so we're very confident about this holding in the future. And then an area we've been less confident about, moving on to the next photo, excuse me, is our A East. This is the very southeast corner of our levee system all the way down in Golden Meadow. And we're looking right now, not at the storm side, this is actually the protected side.
I got you.
And we're looking at some areas where our
cut
shoreline has exactly been cut in. We've got about 1,000-acre open water area just north of here, where when we get some north winds, that wave action has just eroded the toe of that levee. So if on the next photo, we'll see some work that we've been
Those
doing.
rocks.
And this photo was actually taken this morning. So we have contractors on the ground right now putting some rocks, like we were just talking about during
Just
the
a
break.
little more expensive.
They
Yeah.
are a little more expensive, but they last longer. You can see on the left side of that photo, we had some sheet pile there.
Yeah.
Because
Cool.
it is cheaper. It does help some, but it's definitely not as robust and permanent of a solution. Rocks are more expensive, but they'll last. And so not only are we putting rocks, we're also working with the contractor right now to work on a change order that would backfill. Correct. We'll pull material from around where you see that tug and barge.
That'd be a good fishing home.
Yeah, there you go. Mark that one down on the map right now. And over to the west here, we see where Loop's pipeline crosses through our levee. And so instead of having an earthen levee where you have trucks going over, we have a concrete T-wall there. And so that's a permanent structure. We never have to do work
That's
in or
where the
around there
pipeline goes
again.
through?
That's where the pipeline goes through. It follows in a corridor under that concrete wall there. Around those walls for Ida, we did have some scouring. And so we went back and repaired those areas. We're about to come back in the next few weeks, issuing notice to proceed on a contractor to lay some concrete mats there to just armor that area a little bit better. The way these concrete mats are built, they'll actually have spaces between them. So it's not a solid concrete mat. And because we saw on the western side of Bayou Lafourche, just west of our lock there in Golden Meadow, where we had that similar setup of concrete matting, we had grass growth between it. The grass,
Which is what you're looking
acts
for.
as a buffer and a repellent against storm surge and water, and it helps protect all of it better.
Right.
And so
Oh, that's a good idea.
all right, so we're
And
moving
probably
forward
didn't think
with that
of
too.
it, but yeah, it's figuring it out now.
Right, and a lot of that has
experience.
been, you can engineer something to death, but we joke about Wendell and his what we call his Wendellisms, his saying that he's well known for. Everybody knows that elevation is a salvation to our inundation, but my favorite one that he says is nothing reflects reality like reality, and this is a perfect case where we had a couple different designs of concrete mats. Some people said, "Oh, this will work better." Reality showed that this is going to be the design that'll work better, and so that's what we're going with moving forward. So
Absolutely.
and then our next photo shows another spot where we're putting those. Right
mats.
next to our lock where our flood wall ties into the levee. We're going to be adding some armoring there too.
Where it's going to go over that hump right there?
Correct. Yeah.
I got you.
So it'll just be an added layer of protection where it's a weak spot where
Right.
the flood wall ties into the earthen levee. Then some more work that we're going to be having coming up soon is our flood wall on the Rose. We're putting in a vessel impact barrier. When the Corps built their wall originally to elevation of 8 feet, we came back and added wall on top of it to get it up to the 13 feet that it is now. They put rocks to protect their wall from Bayou Lafourche to the overpass at 308. Well, we still have another 2,500 feet
Right.
of that wall that's unprotected. And so we're going to be going out for
Finish.
bid later this year to add a series of cluster piles to protect that wall there along GIWW, just because of the boat traffic that happens there.
Right. That was one of the weak spots too. Yeah, to
Absolutely.
Get that up
Absolutely.
for sure. Okay, section A East.
Our A East is another project that we're going to be going
water
out for bid
retention
for
pond?
later this year. And this is the exact section we were just looking at where we have that erosion all the way in the southeast corner there. Now, we have a siphon just north of this area that we can control the water levels in Bayou Lafourche to stop Golden Meadow from flooding. We can lower the water levels in Bayou Lafourche 0.2 feet over 24 hours. But the problem here is that we also have to pump out this 1,000-acre open water area. Right. So by levying it off and adding a couple water control structures, we can decide when we want to reconnect or isolate that area to make our siphoning operations a lot more efficient and a lot faster.
You
to
decide
get the
whether
water.
it's going to be on the north or the south and which way the water's going
Right,
to.
exactly. So that'll be a huge help in our fight to make sure that we're not flooding Golden Meadow down
Okay,
there.
a couple more slides here. And again, there's the Lee Ontario lock.
Well, and this lock has been a game changer for us, being able to allow not only vessel traffic to continue, but allow us to control the flow of water a lot better. But on the next photo, which was just taken yesterday, we see the problems that we have with only having a floodgate. You see a vessel there waiting for us to be able to open the gate because the water levels in the JIWW yesterday afternoon were just too high. We couldn't open it or risk flooding Golden Meadow. So having a lock structure there in the future is going to be a huge bonus for not only us in being able to manage water, but in allowing commerce to continue. So we're working with the Corps right now to get that approved, and with the parish and the state to get funding in place.
Well, Nick, awesome, man. A lot of information. Thanks so much for
Absolutely.
being here.
Sure. Thanks, Harry.
That's Going Public. We'll see you next time right here.